Today, we are super excited to have Beno Udrih here. Beno is currently still trying to play basketball, but most importantly, his career lasted 13 years in the NBA and has won 2 NBA championships. And many people recognize you from your success with the San Antonio Spurs and your contributions to so many teams. So thank you so much for joining us and talking basketball with us.
Thanks for having me.
The wonderful thing about this is this conversation will transition a little bit as your career is transitioning, still wanting to play, but with a focus in mind about potentially coaching down the line. And you're involved in some of the NBA development programs for coaches, and you're involved just generally visiting some different NBA places and learning about coaching and different things like that. So we're going to focus on you, not as the player, but you as a future coach, and get into that. And, let's talk a little bit about, maybe let's just start with, what are some of the things that you've done so far to focus on developing as a future coach?
What
are some of the things that you've done so far to focus on developing as a future coach?
Well, I did while I was still playing in the league. I attended top 100 camp through MBPA. That basically helps you coach high school kids, and you go through some classes with Brandon Sir. Then I did, I think, 3 times in the last 5 years, and then I did the leadership program through MBPA as well, 4 times. It's great. Basically, I was learning about coaching and the front office kind of position, scouting, and all these kind of things. Salary cap.
It's amazing. I mean, you're learning it all, really.
Yeah.
You're getting a good feel for it.
I'm trying to consider myself as a sponge. I'm just trying to soak in as much as I can, to have all the information, because I believe that, because when you're a player, you don't really focus on the front office stuff as much. And me wanting to be a coach, I think you have to understand front office, what they do as well, pretty well. So, because I think front office and coaches, they have to work together to build a team that's successful.
Well, and understanding the big picture of what this is going to be, because obviously you have to work with management, you have to work with your training staff, your strength and conditioning, everybody. So, and that's part of it. And let's talk that a little bit, because they say that often your first coaching experience, you coach the way you were coached. So let's think about that without naming specific names. What were some of the favorite traits of the coaches that you most enjoyed playing for?
What I like the most is coaches that teach, they go in little details. And that's what I want to do as well as a coach, because I feel like players sometimes, just focus on, statistics, but they can help team win basketball games with little details, how to set a screen at the right angle, the spacing wise, all these little details, smell of the opposite team good enough so you can adjust that stance in defense, so it's a lot of things that, I still got to get better at and realizing and recognizing. But, that's why I've been doing this in the last year, just visiting different kind of teams, in NBA, just learning from different coaches and different front offices, what they do and how they see things.
Do you feel like as a player that you had an appreciation for the details more as you moved on in your career? Do you feel that that was always there?
I always been I was not the most athletic guy, so I had to focus and put a lot of work on my fundamentals and getting to my spots in the game and, getting my teammates open and getting them better shots than they would get maybe with somebody else on the court. So, that's what I was focusing on, I was a guy that always looked like assist per turnover ratio, especially, me, majority of the time that I've been playing in the league, I played as a back. That's what I was focusing on, I was a guy that always looked like assist per turnover ratio, especially, me, majority of the time that I've been playing in the league, I played as a backup point guard. And I think that, that's very important when you come in and try to help a team win games. That's why it's something that you have to pay attention to.
And I've been fortunate. I had a chance to watch you work out in an individual workout setting, and I've had a chance to watch you practice. So I've seen the commitment to the craft. How much of that do you think was shaped from your European upbringing in terms of how you practice in Europe versus how a player in North America might be brought up, say, in an AAU system or a high school system?
It's definitely probably helped. I started playing professional when I was 15, 16 years old. And, back then, you have a part of the club and you practice every day. It's not like you just play tournaments in the summer. So you basically, to be a basketball player, I mean, I remember when I was like 15 to like 17, 18 years old, I was practicing from 4:30 to 10 o'clock every day. I had 3 practices with different age of teams, so that definitely helped me, like go into professionalism and like understand, how to play with older guys and how to play with the younger guys. It's definitely helped. Yeah.
No, that's great. And I think that's an important understanding for people that aren't familiar with that European system is that like often you're practicing 2 times a day. It's not just a one-day practice. And even when you become a professional in Europe.
Yeah, even that. Yeah. I mean, usually in the mornings you have like individual works or, playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, getting shots up and that kind of stuff, technique, ball handling. But in the evening, you play basketball, basically.
So speaking from a player transitioning to a coach, are some of these things, and I'll throw a few of them at you, but are some of these things overrated by coaches? For example, things like something that you valued, but, as a coach, you might think, hey, listen, there's a better way to do this.
Well, yeah, I think that like they went too much into the details, especially because you play the team, maybe twice in the whole season in 82 games. I think once when it gets to the playoffs, I understand that the scouting gets more detailed. But like during the season, I think my thinking is that like the way usually teams that usually I played for and we were successful, we were better when we were just focusing on our own team, not really watching a lot of video on the opposite team and their plays. I mean, you walk through a couple of stuff, but like if you stick to your system and you work at your system constantly every day, you become great at something instead of focusing too much on something else or too many things, and then you're just mediocre at all of the things. So, but yeah, sometimes, I mean, coaches go kind of focusing too much on something else or too many things, and then you're just mediocre at all of the things. So, but yeah, sometimes, I mean, coaches go, scouting goes in too much details because then players sometimes get confused and it's too much information, yeah.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, that self-scout is more important in some ways than the opponent scout. Yeah. Because as you said, you're working on your team and you're focused on those things in development. Another thing which is popular nowadays is workload management.
Yeah.
Workload management. Are we managing a player too much and taking away their development in terms of reps, in terms of their ability to get better because we're not practicing as much? And you must have seen that in your 13 years in the league, like the changes.
Well, I think that I don't know if they really practice too much or not enough, but I think like when the players do practice, I think the practices should be shorter but more intense. Like, so go game speed wise, like do it as you would do it in a game. Do it as you would do it in a game. And instead of doing 10 repetitions, just do 6 or 5. I think that's because like now the player, is actually focusing on making shots, like say like, okay, you need to make 4 shots. Now, if you make 4 out of 5, that's great percentages, and then if you go in a game, that goes down by 50% right away. So now you're going to be at like 45% shooter, right? If you just go 10 shots, you don't really have to focus on making. I mean, it's just such a little details,
I'm in line. I appreciate what you're saying and agree with it that, shorter but more game-like probably has more benefit than longer and not game-like.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times when you get tired, your focus goes down and then you don't perform as much because you're not as focused. Now injuries happen. You know what I mean? So,
and that's the trade-off. People say, well, we're more likely to get injured, but you're more like game-like things, especially when we're talking about the best players in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You can be more purposeful and get it done faster because you don't need 10 reps of the same play.
Oh.
We could do 1 or 2 reps of that play live and you would get it, right?
Yeah,
and most of your teammates would get it.
Yeah, and you would be more especially when you go in a game and you say, oh yeah, I was in that situation before. When you're walking through, it's never the same as in the game. So sometimes you get surprised.
Well, I'll send you some stuff and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but one of the main things that comes through when you do what we call on air, that means without defense versus with defense, is the fact that when you do it without defense, you remove the distracting info and the visual cues. So essentially when you go back and try and run, say, a play in a game, it's a completely different thing than you did in practice anyways.
Yeah.
Because of the speed, the timing, the location of the defense. So
it's tough,
So I'm in line with what you're saying, and that's probably good. And Look, the other thing that you mentioned already was because of the speed, the timing, the location of the defense. So
yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
So I'm in line with what you're saying, and that's probably good. And look, the other thing that you mentioned already was being a role player or a backup player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's an art to that.
Yeah.
And I think that as a coach, that's got to be one of your biggest jobs, is communication to players about roles.
Yes.
Having been a player and been in so many different situations, how's it best to have that conversation with players? How's it best to sell them on that?
I mean, just be straight up from the first day, like if you're signing a free agent, just tell him like where you see him, and like hopefully player agrees with it, but like I think I was on the teams that like roles were set and you know exactly what your reasons to be there are. And then I was on a team that like I didn't know what my role really is and like what I'm supposed to do. And like everybody was in confusion the whole time. So there's too much up and downs and like we didn't perform as
coaching staffs and, administrators that you would be at some points confused about your role.
Yeah. I mean, you are because like, everybody's competitive, and everybody want to do the best and everybody want to play, a lot of minutes and like prove themselves and stuff like that. But the thing is that at the end of the day, I always say that, this is like a team sport. And if a team is winning and you playing 10 minutes instead of 20 minutes, people that watch basketball, understand basketball, they know what you can bring to the team if you play 10 minutes. And they know that you can do it better if you play 20 minutes. but a lot of players say, oh yeah, I'm not playing a lot of minutes. I can't showcase myself. Just prepare yourself mentally for, playing 10, 15 minutes and you will do a better job than you would if you just like, oh yeah, I'm not playing, I can't showcase myself. And then a lot of other, things come in your mind and you start just going the different direction when you should. Yeah.
Well, and that's interesting. And maybe you can speak.
Then a lot of other, things come in your mind and you start just going the different direction when you should. Yeah.
Well, and that's interesting. And maybe you can speak to that too. Now, as a coach, coaching a role player, you've defined their role. Now, how do I help them be successful in that role, knowing that they're only going to play 15 minutes, but in that role, what are we focusing them on? I mean, I know it varies by player, but what are some things that I can do to help that player?
I mean, just constantly put him in the situations that you use him in, and then obviously there was a coach that used to tell me, like when I was a backup in San Antonio, that like when you're coming off the bench, I mean, not a lot of players look at plus minus a lot, but when you're coming off the bench and you're like a backup player, and like role player, you play 10, 15 minutes, maybe 18 minutes, I think you should be focusing on like, okay, I'm going in a game, we're tied, I'm coming out of the game. I feel that's very important when you're a backup or role player, to look at that plus minus. I mean, when you're a starter, that's sometimes hard because, it's so many up and downs in the game and
the
so
ebb and
many
flow
runs.
of the game,
Yes,
it
exactly.
can skew that. But
when you go in and you're like there for like 6 minutes at a time, it's like you need to be sharp, you need to take care of the ball and stuff like that. So it's not so much freedom.
Well, and it speaks to the coach's role a little bit for you too, which is noticing your success and your contributions and your progress in terms of helping the team. And that's a tangible way to do that, right? Like if your plus minus is positive in those minutes, then you did a great job and you did your role.
I think, coaches should be, talking more about that. Like, go to a player, like, a lot of players are going to be like, oh yeah, I was 0 for 3, shooting. I'm like 0%. Like, I didn't really help the team win. But then you go in, you play great on defense. You were +4, that's a good job. So like, I think coaches should be maybe focused more on that. Players, hey, you did a good job, because sometimes players are very critical on themselves, Well,
of course, that's the nature of a player, right?
Yeah.
Nature of a player is they want to do their best. And in a lot of ways, they want to do better than what they're currently doing. But not everybody gets that opportunity. So how do you sell them? And this is great stuff. This is great advice. Another question I have for a player like you, especially transitioning with a thought to coaching, what's something that we overteach that doesn't happen as much as we think? Or, maybe it's something that like, it's a fundamental we teach that is like, well, it doesn't really happen that way. Yeah. But that's how coaches teach it.
I think in general, like if you think about it, right, what are usually players work on when they're doing 1-on-0 workouts?
Shooting.
Offense.
Yeah, offense.
Nobody's practicing defense when they do 1-on-0, right? So like So you do 100% offense, right? And like majority of players make it to the NBA because they're very good offensive players, so they have a potential to be good defenders, right? Or, like they're long and like athletic and they can block shots, but like nobody really works on defense, So imagine if you work on defense 20% and work on offense 80% of the time, there would be more like better defenders, I guess, like especially like positioning themselves. Because sometimes, especially real weak side defense, like I've been seeing it during the years when I'm playing, it's like positioning. Because sometimes in a game when guys are so athletic and quick and fast, 1 foot makes a big difference, So yeah, I think more like sometimes just focusing more on defense too, like the little details, where to be, how to stand, stuff like that.
That's great. And defensively, we talk about offensive decision making, but defense is about decision making as well.
Yeah,
when to go, where to be, all those different things.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can do?
Little tricks when you grab the guy that wants to go to a defensive rebound and you grab his wrist and the refs don't see it, and it takes half a second of the momentum away, but like somebody else gets offensive rebound of your team, not you.
Not that you did that ever.
No, I never did it. Yeah.
But you've seen that.
I've seen it, yeah.
So let's talk, because that's an awesome opening to some of the other tricks.
Yeah.
What are some other tricks that, that are, technically cheating, but cheating within, smart playing? Like they're not obviously overt, but little details like that. What are some little things like that can maybe influence a player's?
I think like change of speed. Like, that's like very important, knowing when to, like slow down and go fast, because now defense is, especially in offense, because like in defense is now you're trying to put the defense to sleep, we say, right? In offense, because like defense sometimes relaxes too much. And then if you have that extra speed or pace, you can actually benefit a lot. So that's a little thing, yeah.
Yeah, change of pace and change of speed and, sometimes get there fast and then be slow and all these different terms that come up, and it's a pace, right? And you've already alluded to it. I mean, you're not the most athletic guy, but I think people underestimate someone's perceptual abilities, their understanding of those things, angles, like pace and angles. And all the stuff, that's really where you become an expert, right? As a player. How can we teach those things better as coaches?
I mean, obviously like a lot of players like focus on their athletic. I mean, they basically just focus on their athleticism and, quickness and stuff. But like, the way you teach it, you just never stop teaching basically. You got to show them on a video and then walk them through and show them, quickness and stuff. But like, the way you teach it, you just never stop teaching basically. You got to show them on a video and then walk them through and show them little gaps, and hopefully they pay attention and then see little details that you're trying to teach, and trying to always, I think it's important to keep talking, because like a lot of coaches, there's a lot of stuff that there has to be done as a coach. But if you have coaching staff that you trust and you believe that they're going to do the best job for the, guys to get better and like continue to teach, I think that's going to help a lot. I mean, because like a lot of times, coaches go like, you don't do it 3 times and they just forget about it and they just move to another thing. So I think that's very important to stay on it and stay on course too. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We need to do this to get better. Let's do it and let's continue. Because like players are smart these days. You have all these social media, they see things, they read things. Yeah. So when you tell a player one time, okay, do this, and then you don't tell him the five times, and then you tell him again one time, players like, well, why would I do it? I get away 4 times out of 5. Like why would I do it? So
yeah, it's great stuff. And speaking to some of that, then, what is the ideal amount of video that a player can process? Because again, I think that's what young coaches kind of sometimes overlook, is that like too much or more is not better.
Yeah, no.
But specific is better.
Yeah, I think definitely you have to have a good balance of showing something bad and then showing something good. So, you can't just always be negative, because, then players like, okay, coach doesn't think I'm doing anything good. I mean, but it's not just players. I think that's just in life. If somebody's always negative, you would start being negative on yourself too, you know? So that's always very important. Attention span, I would say. So it's better to do it more often, but in shorter periods of times. Like focus on one thing at a time. Like, okay, listen, you can attack here, you too slow here, or you're not helping on defense and you need to stand here, and then move on, you know, and hopefully, and like I said earlier, stay on it, you know, keep teaching.
I've had a number of coaches on my podcast actually say it that way in terms of practice, that you do kind of your daily vitamins, to steal a term from your Spurs days.
Yes.
You do your daily vitamins, but then you focus on one thing per practice that you're going to get better at. And I kind of believe that now about film, that you show, you know, some common, this is every day we're going to show some clips about this. Like maybe it's ball screen coverage for you as a point guard. But then each film session, we're going to focus on just one thing that we want you to really focus in on. Because too much, you get lost. Does that make sense for you as a player?
It definitely makes sense. Yeah. I mean, because I wasn't part of the teams and
really focus in on. Because too much, you get lost. Does that make sense for you as a player?
It definitely makes sense. Yeah. I mean, because I wasn't part of the teams and like guys stop paying attention after 10 minutes, you know. And you know what, I think it's very important as well when you have those meetings. I think it's very important to be direct, you know. So like, don't say like we're watching a video and one player is making a mistake. And, you know, obviously you can't put too much of a one guy on the video, but like if somebody does wrong, you did this wrong, you can see it on the video, you know, put everybody on the video. And instead of just like saying, oh, we dribbled the ball too much, but then there's only one player that's handling the ball a lot, you know, or, okay, you don't kick it out from the post enough, right?
Yeah, no. We is the worst feedback.
Yes, exactly. You know, it's like, you know, you have some players that take that to heart. I was like, I'm not even playing, but then you're telling me we, you know, like, I mean that we, right? So it's an over dribble, but like he didn't say it's me.
Yeah, so be very direct. Hey, Tony, you got to do a better job of this. And then we know who we're talking about. And then in that process, obviously, everyone hopefully is helped as well. Another thing, you mentioned it there about confidence. And even at the NBA level, the coach has such an impact on your confidence, do they?
They definitely do. I think confidence, you know, it's like a very big, maybe 60% of everything. You know, like if you have good confidence, if you have trust from the coaches first and then players, you know, you definitely will shoot the ball better. You're going to make better plays, smarter decisions. I definitely think that's very, very important.
What are some of the things that gave you confidence that a coach did?
Well, you know, just continue coaching and, you know, again, no double standards, you know, like personally for me, you know, if coach, like if I missed one shot, you know, coach would keep, it's okay. It was a good shot, you know, like keep standards, you know, like personally for me, you know, if coach, like if I missed one shot, you know, coach would keep, it's okay. It was a good shot, you know, like keep doing it, you know, like especially like in defense, like, you know, when I was really happy when coach came to me, hey, that was a great defense. You know, that kind of like got me another gear to play, you know, because like, okay, you know, he's actually paying attention to, you know, me trying and playing hard in defense. And now you get a little energy, a little boost and, you know.
To coach the bench guys the same that you're coaching the starters, and everyone's important. And everyone, as you just said, affirmations, noticing your successes and your progress, but also helping you get better.
And I think it's important to communicate to players, especially like in the beginning of the season, like even before training camp starts, you know, communicate to players saying basically like, hey, I'm going to, you know, be on your case every time when you're going to make a mistake, but, you know, I'm going to let you play free. You know, that player, I'm just trying to give you constructive criticism so we as a team can get better.
A quick interruption to this week's episode to let you know what you're missing if you are not currently a member of BasketballImmersion.com. Basketball Immersion is one-stop shopping for video learning to stimulate your basketball coaching using evidence-based practices. Watch hundreds of videos covering BDT shooting, 0-second skills training, how we teach using small-sided games and a games approach to coaching, as well as team concepts and systems like trail trap, flow offense, two-sided fast break, and much, much more. NCAA, NBA, pro, high school, and youth coaches are amongst the thousands of coaches who are a part of our community. Go to basketballimmersion.com today to stimulate your basketball coaching.
And then another question that goes with that is in-game coaching.
Mm-hmm.
How much feedback did you really want in-game? Like, because a certain amount of feedback can make you play less free, right? If I get you thinking too much as a player. Did you like feedback in the game, or did you not like feedback? You just wanted that feedback to be summary more after the game?
Yeah. But again, like we said earlier, if you talk about too many things, then players like, okay, I'm not doing this right.
And you're worried about those things.
Exactly. So, because it's hurting the team, and obviously it hurts you in the end too. So I think you just got to be very direct and work on be actually focusing on things that you've been focusing at practice. Like we said earlier, you don't be too much all over the place, focus on one little detail, or two maybe details and stuff like that. Because, I've seen it before. I think players like to be coached, and players like to have two options maybe. So, but if you give them too many options, now one option doesn't work, and now they're like, oh, it's not working, I'm going to go the other option. But then if one player is doing the other option and all other four players doing the first option, now it's not working anymore, right? So now you're all messed up. So.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I guess that leads me into a question I've always wanted to ask a player like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, what is one of the toughest actions that you always had to defend? Like, if you said on defense, listen, I don't want to play against this action, I prefer they didn't run this. Because there's things that are harder to guard than other things. And I think that's important for us to understand as a coach, because if you're saying this is hard to guard, this is something we should probably be running.
Yeah. I think the mid or angle pick and roll, especially the big guy came full speed from under the basket, and he came out maybe 3-4 feet outside of the 3-point line. Especially with the way game changes lately, and 3-point shots, that's a hardest thing to guard, because you don't know where the pick is coming from. They say left, but right before, when they hear your defensive teammate saying left, the guy switches, and guys are so good, you can't really guard them all the way at the half court, so you got to be back a little bit. So it's very hard. There's so many coverages. Are you going to be with the heels to the 3-point line and just wait for? So are you going to be with the heels to the 3-point line and just wait for him? But then you have James Harden, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. They're shooting they have an unbelievable range. Even Trae Young now, even Luka Doncic. So it's hard.
The amazing complexity, right?
Yeah, it's very hard. That's the hardest thing to guard. Even now, you say any team that plays, let's say, pick and roll a lot, 7 out of 10 times they're going to score. So that's a good percentage, right?
Well, and the pick and roll, you grew up with pick and roll.
Yes.
That was something that was taught from a really young age in Europe, and is such a framework of the game. And that's great to know, because I think the pick and roll in space with late pivots from the screener, that's really tough to cover. So let's look at the other side of it. If you had control of your team and you needed to run one action or one play, would it be the same action or same?
Yeah, pretty much.
Same situation.
Maybe swing the ball a couple.
Ball movement teams.
Yeah.
Some really good ball movement teams. Do you value ball movement?
Yes, a lot. I still think that now the game went away from my beliefs a little bit. Inside out game. I grew up. I was fortunate enough to be in San Antonio, 2 championships, and we had Tim Duncan on the block.
So you could play through the post.
Yeah. So, we still, Tony still had a lot of mano. They handled the ball, played a lot of pick and rolls. But I think if you have inside out game and then you have outside in game, it helps if you have 2 styles of the play instead of constantly just playing outside.
But the modern game tells us now that there's no value to the post
I
shot.
think that's going to come. It's going to go back. The only thing I see now, you still have now big guys that coming out of the colleges and now in the league and stuff like that. You have good big guys, but the thing is, because shot is so important, everybody has a shot now. A lot of them has a. So definitely game changed, and it's good to see it. It's fun, it's entertaining, but I still think that sometimes it's good to slow down. Like I said earlier, have a little pace, So now you got to be fast, play slow. So now team is always guessing what you're going to play.
As a player, is it noticeable how the game has changed? Is it noticeable how the pace has changed?
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, now, you get a defensive rebound, you dribble the ball and you get a little drag pick and roll, and you got a wide open shot. You shoot a three right away. Before that, it was very tough to do. It's not like a lot of players. Now everybody pretty much can do it. So it's a lot more 3-point shots that they used to be. So you see it too. Like I remember when I was in San Antonio, our scores were below 100, right? Now you have end of the third quarter and teams are scoring 100 points already.
No, it's amazing. I mean, it's just really almost in the blink of an eye.
I remember when I was in San Antonio, our scores were below 100, right? Now you have end of the third quarter and teams are scoring 100 points already.
No, it's amazing. I mean, it's just really almost in the blink of an eye, the game suddenly is so offensive oriented.
Yeah.
And the defense hasn't caught up yet to a solution.
I mean,
and the rules have changed in fairness.
I mean, you can see Golden State, I feel they're struggling a little bit this year because they've been playing the same style for 4 years now, right? So teams know what they're going to do and they kind of adjusted to it, right? When you have some other teams that didn't play that kind of a style and teams struggling, let's say Sacramento Kings, they're playing good this right now, but they haven't played like this last year. So teams are okay, maybe we should start guarding them a little bit different and stuff.
Well, it's almost like a rookie who has a great first year, but then their second year they struggle a little bit because people have kind of figured something out. And now they have to figure something out to get to that next level.
Exactly.
No games, win championships. What are some of the traits that you would bring to your coaching now?
Well, definitely, I said it earlier, no double standards.
Yeah.
I mean, if you made a mistake, you're going to be, on a video.
Best player, worst player,
it
didn't matter.
The name on the back of the jersey, it does not matter. Attention to details, how to set a screen, where to set a screen, where to the spacing, so everybody has enough, ball movement, cutting, all these things that we did in San Antonio that worked. And I would definitely try to adopt that.
How was the ball movement developed? Was that emphasis? Was it drilling? Was it video? What things led to that tremendous ball movement?
Well, yeah, it was video, but move the ball. We always try to find a great shot instead of a good shot. Can you make a good shot? Yes. I mean, we're doing this for a living. Yes, we can make a good shot, but can you make a great shot? Twice, I mean, can you contest every time that you're in defense? Why not? You just put a hand up. My thinking is just if you are 6 feet away from somebody, if I just lift my arm real fast, you see it, your eye perception is going to be brain,
So there is value to challenging the shot with hand.
Yeah.
But what about leaving your feet? Did you value that?
Yeah. I think so.
So obviously, instinct that changes their perception.
Now guys are so good, you got to make sure that you leave your feet after. So, because then pump fake and then, you draw fouls.
And pump fake and step to the side and shoot the three. Yeah.
So you got to, it's all being focused and knowing the personnel who you're guarding and what their tendencies are. That's very important. But yeah.
How are the best timeouts organized that you were a part of? What were some things that coaches maybe don't understand?
Tendencies are. That's very important. But yeah.
How are the best timeouts organized that you were a part of? What were some things that coaches maybe don't understand that are the most valuable for a player in a timeout that maybe we don't do enough? Because you've been around some great timeouts, no question.
Yeah. I think it's if coach comes into a huddle and just tells us one little thing and focus on, again, it goes back to focus on one thing. If you give us too many options, players are, everybody's thinking differently, right? So if you give the whole team, okay, you can do this, or this, well, not everybody's thinking the same thing, right? Now, if you give us two options, everybody knows, if that's going to be denied, what the other option is. And, if the other option is covered, then they can't cover the other option. So it's kind of just keep it limited, and you can see that.
Oh, that's a great message for coaches, because I think, again, sometimes we feel like timeouts or practice or coaching clinics rather than for the players.
Yeah.
And ultimately for the player, that one thing can really focus them in. So that's really good insight in that way.
A lot of times it happens. After the timeout, you get too many options and players like, oh, what are we in? Like, what are we doing? You know, I mean, it happens to everybody, you know, especially. And then you got to put in consideration too, you're tired. So like attention span is even shorter. So,
well, not just tired, but how much goes on in an NBA timeout?
Yeah, but just like
music and dancing, it's crazy.
Down, I mean,
there's so much, so many distractions.
Yeah. And then now it's so much science behind it too. So, you know. So, yeah.
Well, then that's great. And this is an ongoing thing, I think, within my coaching community, and I think the coaching community in general. But like, what is a closeout? Like, what is a closeout? Which, like, did you do short choppy steps to hands up, or, you know, some of this coach speak that we get into about a closeout? Mm-hmm. When I watch you or some other NBA players actually close out, you don't actually do that.
No,
like you don't do that. So what do you actually do? You think?
I'm just trying to get to my guy as fast as I can
and take away their space.
Yeah, because sometimes guys see you. You know, see the effort. If I'm just slowly kind of coming towards you, they're going to shoot it. If you go fast, sometimes, because guys do, like, you know, players predetermine what they're going to do sometimes. So like now, if I sprint towards him, now he's going to say like, okay, I want to shoot this. If I get this ball right now, I'm going to shoot it. But if I'm coming real fast to him, now I took him away from him, he's not going to even drive. I mean, now you have guys that are like super talented, super good, you know, it's like they have that like quick reactions, you know, to everything. So they have counter moves to a lot of things. So, I mean.
But it's a victory if you force them into their count.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
That's a victory.
Yeah, everything. So they have counter moves to a lot of things. So, I mean.
But it's a victory if you force them into their count.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
That's a victory. Even they might make the shot because they're so
good shooters.
Yeah.
They can put the ball on the floor, you know, and then let him make a decision, like different decision than he is actually the best at.
So would you teach at this point? Would you teach in terms of that, or would you rather have them shoot it, like if it's a max range?
Forward, like Steph Curry, you know, but then, you know, with Steph Curry, you know, he's so good, like with like attacking. If you fly by and then stepping back, and he's such a good shooter, it's like hard. I mean, just try to be as close as possible. And like a lot of times when you play pick and rolls, you know, against the Warriors, let's say, you know, it has to be solved with two-man game. Can't be any other rotations and stuff because you have so many other shooters around, you know.
Well, and that's a great point, is that sometimes you want to limit the number of defenders that are involved in defending the action. So,
but at the end of the day, again, like offense always have an advantage.
That's really cool. The other thing that I've been told to ask you, so hopefully this is a good conversation, is shooting footwork. Mm-hmm. That you have a pretty firm opinion at this point on what footwork works best for you. 1-2 stop?
Yeah, 1-2, yes. Especially coming off the pick and roll. Like it's fast touch because, like, you know, some players like to jump stop, like a quick jump stop. Some players have like one foot already stationary, and then they just bring the foot to the other foot next to it and shoot it. But yeah, I think I was always better shooter coming off like catch and then one dribble pull up, two dribble pull ups. You know, I got in my rhythm, and it was actually 1-2. You know, because like, you know, you're still in that athletic stance. And you can still like hesitate or something. Once when you jump stop, you slow yourself down, and like teams can actually guard, like they can determine what you're going to do.
Well, I remember watching you work out and being very conscious of your rhythm, that your rhythm was impeccable.
Yeah.
Like no matter which direction and which angle, your dribble to ball pickup rhythm was the same.
Yeah.
Because your feet make that boom, boom, and then you're up into your shot off that 1-2.
It's rhythm, I think it's very important, yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of players don't focus. They just like shooting, right? They focus on little rhythm. And like, I can see that on, you know, when I'm watching a game on TV, on the video, unless I don't watch it live. But I see it on video, you can stop it. And you can see the little hesitation or like little...
Or the pause in the motion, you're saying, with the hesitation instead of a flow, right?
Yeah, exactly. So...
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in teaching ball pickup to young players, like how to pick up the ball and pick it up so that the flow and the rhythm applies. Yeah. And is that something you were conscious of, or is that something that you just developed through repetition?
Yeah, I was conscious. I mean, like when I was younger, obviously, you know, I had a coach that like helped me work on that and like get me better. But then like what he was teaching me is like for me to know what I'm doing wrong. So for me to realizing, you know, because a lot of players, like sometimes they shoot. They just think they just missed. I think there's like a lot more into it, goes in a lot more into it. You can actually figure it out why your percentage is like a little worse than some, because a lot of players, like sometimes they shoot, they just think they just missed. I think there's like a lot more into it, goes in a lot more into it. You can actually figure it out why your percentage is like a little worse than some shots and the other shots,
So we talked about off the dribble then. If you were just, corner three, catching the ball, is it still a 1-2 for you, or is it a hop into it?
Yeah, it would be a 1-2. Because I'm a lefty, usually my right foot would be stationary, it would be planted already, and then I would bring up the left leg. Yeah.
No, that's great to know. And because I think these questions are interesting for us and for you as an exercise to say, what would I teach? Let's say you're teaching youth players and starting them from not from scratch, but from some level of movement, say when you started playing 15 years old and you're trying to get to that next level. What are some of the things that you would teach?
I feel it's different with every player,
Very individual.
Yeah, it's very individual, like obviously you have to absorb what players are good at. It's like a lot of people, like especially, they were talking about athletes there too. And like, let's say as a young player, you're like, I don't know, let's say you're a big guy, right? And you have like from 1 to 10 ratio, you're at 6 with the right hook, and you're at the 2 with the left hook, right? So a lot of people go like, okay, you're good at the right. I want you to work on the weak hand, right? But like if you work on your weak hand, you will never come to 10. You're going to get to 6. So now you don't work on your strong hand. You don't work on now you're 6'8". You're mediocre at both. Instead of work at the strong one more and have a counter move. So now you can get up 3, you 9. Now you can be great at that.
And focus on strengths more than weaknesses.
Work on weaknesses as well, but I think focus on strength more so you can become great at something instead of being mediocre at everything.
And maybe this will confirm something for me. By the way, Is Never Enough is a John Maxwell book.
Yeah.
And tremendous book. I remember reading it ages ago. But confirm maybe for me that I really do believe that when players get to the rim on layups, that they should try as much as possible, whether it's off of a 2-foot push shot, it's off of a layup, that they shoot it with their dominant hand, because exactly like you're saying, their percentage of finishing is higher.
Yeah.
And that we spend this obsessive amount of time working on their weak hand finishes. Yeah. And it's not to say you don't need to develop your weak hand, because there are situations. But by and large, if you can go strong hand, you're going to be better.
Yeah. I believe so.
Did you feel like that translated through your career?
Yeah. But that's why, I understood who I am as a player, and I knew where my spots are. And even when I work out now 1-on-0, that's what I work at getting to my spots, getting into 7 spots everywhere. And basically I cover the whole mid-range and threes but I stay in the spots. Getting into 7 spots everywhere, and basically I cover the whole mid-range and threes, and but I stay in the game. Work on floaters, yes. I shoot a floater left, I shoot a floater with the right, I do it all. But once when it's gonna get what humans do a lot, they like to feel comfortable, and we always gonna go back to the comfort zone, no matter what. You can work on we can as much as you can, but when it's going to come down to the end of the game, and you to shoot with a strong or weak hand, you're going to choose to, I guess your body is going to just automatically go it.
Well, and as a coach, I want you to shoot with your higher percentage.
Unless you get all the way to the rim on the left side and the right. Yeah, okay, great. But other than that, you're not going to shoot a 3 or a pull-up mid-range jumper with, opposite hand. So,
and talk a little bit then. It's something that, obviously you'll miss playing when it happens at some point. But is this a challenging time in a player's career that maybe as coaches or as organizations we don't think about enough in terms of helping you transition?
I think it is very important, to help players understand. But again, how everybody says you learn the best from yourself. People can tell you and you don't listen really, and you don't pay attention, but it comes real fast, And it's tough. It's definitely tough, the transition, because you've been doing this for all your life now, and coaching, it's same as players too. You only have this many positions for coaching. I believe that a lot of teams would like to hire more people, but they, it's like business, so can't just keep hiring people,
Right.
So, I mean, it takes time, but like, yeah, I mean, if you determine what you want to do next, like, just put 100% into it and just figure it out. But
Well, it's great because you're doing that.
yeah, I'm trying. I mean, like, yeah, I've been going to visit different teams and like, especially in the last, couple of months since beginning of the training camp. And, it's been great. It's been great learning different stuff.
Well, and I think what you're saying is it applies to high school players, it applies to college players, that you have to have this future employability in the back of your mind about what happens when your playing career is over.
I mean, because, you never know. Like, you can get hurt and like at 25 and you're done.
Or you're college and you're done and it's just done. Like, you're not going to play more. You're going to play in Europe. You're not going to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
I have to have this vision in the back of my mind. I love that message that you have this mindset, even though you still want to play.
I mean, yeah. And, I've been starting that like 5-6 years ago.
Sure,
when
it's
I went
not
to this leadership
just
program. It's not like that. And it's still, it's not easy, So when is the right time to do it?
Sure, it's not
this leadership program. It's not like that, and it's still, it's not easy. So when is the right time to do it? Should I retire like 2 years ago and like go straight into coaching? But to get an opportunity, if I would get an opportunity, if somebody would approach me with that, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say, But like, and then I think it's very important that like a lot of players don't pay attention to is relationships. Build a relationship, stay in touch with people, that's very, very important, because like, when you're a basketball player or any sports in general, like everybody wants something for you. They reach out to you, they call you, they like, they want something from you. Once when you're done playing, they forget about you. They're not gonna, you have to be now the guy that's reaching out because now you need something from them, you know what I mean? So if you just build a relationship, appreciate everybody in organization, from equipment guy to a trainer like that, and like, acknowledge them and say thank you, thank you. You know how far thank you goes?
So
like,
important.
I see, a lot of teammates, I see like equipment manager, and then they said, please put the stuff in the basket, right? And then they just throw it and it's on the floor, you know what I mean? And, or just say like, hey, can you bring me my shoes? I need a new pair of sneakers, right? And he brings you, thank you.
So simple.
I mean? It's so simple, but like it goes so far, like it's crazy.
We're not entitled to anything, and everyone contributes to our success.
Exactly.
Appreciation, that's great.
Organization, it's team, it's like everybody, ball boy, thanks to the ball boys when they're rebounding for you before the game, So like, yeah, just pay attention.
That's great. And talking about that role reversal, that now you're in that opposite spectrum where you're now, those relationships, you're the one that has to maintain them.
Yeah.
The good thing is that you built them.
Yes.
You built them. And by acting the right way throughout your career, those relationships are easier to maintain.
Yeah. And I made mistakes too. I didn't keep in touch or something with people too. But, I realized like about 5-6 years ago, that like I know a lot of people. I continue seeing them, like, why not just pay attention, ask questions, learn about it, stuff, So, yeah.
Well, it's so hard as an athlete because you have such an inward focus.
Yeah.
That to have that outward focus is a maturity that probably takes time. And like you said, you finally 6 years ago or so.
People say to you, all the time, they like say, hey, pay attention to little details, But same, it's like those are little details off the court that like I think it will help players, on the court too, little details, So it's like little details that you got to pay attention to. And it is on and off the court, just different stuff. So.
No, that's good. And I got to talk to you a little bit about this because I saw you in your individual workout and you did a lot of 1 foot stuff. You did a lot of balance stuff. And then obviously we've seen Doncic do it. We've seen different, it's not unique to Slovenia, but certainly Igor, and he's got a video on FIBA that goes through a lot of the 1 foot stuff he used to do with Nash. That was something you mentioned from early in your career. What were some of the rationale behind doing some of the 1 foot stuff?
Well, just I feel that my thinking to that is like trying to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And, that means like when you're shooting uncomfortably and you're trying to be comfortable in that position, when you get in that situation, you're going to do better. So, I mean, and I think Coach Spo did, like when I was in Miami, he paid attention to those little things, try to be comfortable in uncomfortable positions. So like if an offensive player that I'm guarding is closer, I mean, it's faster than me, so
Yeah, that's great phrasing. And, with that 1 foot shooting and stuff, I've noticed it.
It's balanced too. Yeah. It's like, you work on strengthening your ankles and knees and stuff like that. So, cause like, usually you standing with 2 legs, right? So your body's like straight, right? But when you are on 1 foot, it's like different. So.
No, that's great. And this has been outstanding. And I really appreciate you taking some time. And
thanks for having me.
We definitely look forward to seeing you in your coaching role someday, whenever that day comes. And I know you'll have great contributions to the game of coaching. So thank you again for taking time. And we'll post a little bit more information about you on the website and everything with it. But thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
To find out more about Coach and always...
Because you're jumping back into the gap. Outlet to Coach. It's either sideline, 2 on the side, 3 on the side. That's off the second cut.